For 26 years, readers have thrilled to the exploits of a character named Gabriel Allon, the Israeli James Bond. He was created by American author Daniel Silva. And before publishing The Kill Artist in 2000, Silva was nothing more than a mid-list author. He developed, though, this charismatic Gabriel Allon, and he hit pay dirt. I met Gabriel Allon the winter he was brought into the world. I read The Kill Artist while I was living in an absorption center in Haifa, and I devoured the book. It was the same feeling I get with Jewish athletes. Finally, someone revered and famous who celebrates my holidays, shares my history, knows my traditions, knows Jewish idiosyncrasies. Finally. And when we first met Gabriel Allon, he's given up spying to return to his vocation as an art restorer, which is a recurring theme in all of the books. Whenever the state of Israel, though, needs his services, his crusty mentor, Ari Shamron, you can't get more Jewish than that, Ari Shamron, draws him back into the fold. And for 25 novels, Allon never failed to heed the call to help his homeland. He was more than a fictional spy. He was a mirror in which Jewish readers could see courage and skill and loyalty to the Jewish people portrayed without apology. Until Silva's 26th novel, released in July. 2 books ago, Allon retired as head of what Silva called the office, or as we like to call, the Mossad. And he moved to Italy to work full-time as an art restorer, a move he made in many of the previous novels. But in this year's book, in July, the book called An Inside Job, the courageous spy who tracked down the assassinated the murderers of the 1972 Israeli Olympic team, he doesn't even have the Jewish state on his mind. Whenever Silva mentions Allon's previous career, he omits the country he spied for, Israel. There's no reference to any of his former Israeli colleagues, including the key character, Ari Shamron. The word Israel does not appear anywhere in the book. Anywhere. Not one word. Not one word about October 7th, the hostages, all of it absent. Not even in the background. And we remember many Israelis, they were living abroad on October 7th. They came rushing home to serve in the army, but Allon's fictional compass pointed elsewhere. And I said to you, if Allon is not a coward, Silva certainly seems to be. The writer catapulted to first place on the New York Times bestseller list on the back of an Israeli hero, a hero beloved by us, Jewish readers. Silva was invited to Jewish community centers, to synagogues. He was honored. He was enriched by our affection. And now, in Israel's hour of need, the Israel in his story was erased. And that's why I want to bring it to you today. Not because Gabriel Allon is real, but because the temptation to erase, to soften, to distance oneself from Jewish identity is very real, and it's not confined to novelists like Daniel Silva. A joint study by the ADL and the Woodruff Institute, it was published last week. 78% of college students worldwide conceal their Jewish identities. 4 out of 5 Jewish students, then, are hiding their Magen Davids, or they're not wearing them at all. 4 out of 5 Jewish students are hesitating or not putting mezuzahs on their doors. Next week is Yom Kippur. It is the day of confession, not just for sins of commission, but for sins of omission. The times we stayed silent, the parts of ourselves we buried. But can we consider self-erasure a transgression when the same ADL study confirmed that 83% of Jewish American college students have experienced or witnessed anti-Semitism firsthand since October 7th? These are the days of self-reckoning for the Jewish people. We struggle to make moral sense of ourselves, our people, our country, our relationship to Israel, to be uncertain, to be conflicted, to be wrestling with where and how we fit into this new post-October 7th story. That's to personify the name we inherit. And the name we inherit is Israel, the one who wrestles. Listen to Yossi Klein Halevi, senior fellow at the Shalom Hartman Institute. To be an ambivalent Jew today is not to be uncertain so much as torn between conflicting certainties. We know Israel's war against Iran and its proxies is unavoidable. We know any nation in our place would have reacted to Hamas's mass atrocities as we did. We know we face an enemy willing to commit any crime, and that the IDF is fighting under conditions that would test the moral limits of any army. And we know the young Israelis who have fought for months, many for nearly 2 years, are among the most heroic and self-sacrificing the country has produced. And we know Israel is subject to a relentless campaign of lies, half-truths, distortions, convenient omissions. And we know the outrageous accusation of genocide against Israel only diverts the world's focus from radical Islam, the truly genocidal side of the conflict. But we also know something has gone very wrong with Gaza. Don't jump to conclusions. How did we get here? Historical background. In the 1940s and 50s, tens of millions of people around the world, tens of millions, became refugees. None of them, not one, is still classified as a refugee today from those conflicts, except one group. The 1948-49 Arab-Israeli War produced 700,000 Palestinian refugees. By force, by choice, by war? The answer is yes, and not actually relevant in the story of conflict and the definition of refugee. Today, 5.9 million of their descendants are still classified as refugees, 8 times the original number. And why only them? With every other refugee population from that era, the millions of Jews fleeing Europe, the 850,000 Jews, more than 700 by the way, 850,000 Jews expelled from North Africa, 14 million Hindus, Sikhs, Muslims displaced by the partition of India, 12 million ethnic Germans forced from Eastern Europe. Once they gained citizenship somewhere else, their refugee status ended. Not with the Palestinians. Even if they become full citizens of another country, they retain refugee status and they can pass it on to their children. Give you an example. Miss Palestine, beauty pageant. Miss Palestine this year was not born in Gaza or the West Bank. Neither were her parents. Neither were her grandparents. She lives in Michigan. Sarah Horowitz asks in her new book, how is it that tens of millions of people displaced by mid-20th century conflicts were told they had to move on? As painful and as unfair as that was, except for one group, is the goal to keep fighting the 1948 war until Israel finally loses. Gaza, she says, shows us where this ideology leads. So yeah, something has gone very wrong. We are fighting an existential war against enemies without moral restraint. And what that means, says Klein Halevi, is that even if we win against Hamas, we lose. In this war, morality itself has been weaponized in the service of terrorism. We know that. Hamas's greatest asset is the world's outraged conscience. We know that. We've known it for decades. When Palestinian suffering is weaponized, not only against the legitimacy of the war, but of the Jewish state, it makes it possible for outsiders to claim that we, the Jews, are utterly desensitized to Palestinian suffering, that we are the villains. The strategy, it targets the world's proclivity for anti-Semitism, but it also targets Jewish willingness for self-erasure. This is important. Daniel Silva is not an anomaly. He's not an outlier. He represents a paradigm. Self-reckoning built into the DNA of every Jew. It's accentuated during the high holidays. For 2,000 years, a pattern of self-reckoning has emerged. Daniel Silva's self-erasure represents the pattern. The war in Gaza is the catalyst. And my friends, I made a mistake. Rather than indict him, which I did, and his literary choice, we got to understand him. We cannot productively address and correct the systemic issue of Jewish self-erasure without a dose of empathy. And I'm going to teach you something today. It's my job. And I'm going to reference Sarah Horowitz's new book a lot. As a Jew, reclaiming our story from those who blame, shame, and try to erase us. It was released last week. Last week. Thank God I'm a fast reader. If I'd had enough time, which I didn't, I would have bought copies for the entire congregation. That's how important the book is. Months before October 7th, Sarah Horowitz, before October 7th, she went on a speaking tour to college campuses. She was already famous. Her political career, her first book about Judaism, which many of you read, it was called Here All Along, and she was asked on this tour, pre-October 7th, how did you deal with anti-Semitism when you were in college? And she writes, I didn't even understand the question. I answered it honestly. I didn't. Never. Not a single time. Not during college in the 90s. Not during law school in the early 2000s. And the kids looked stunned. They didn't believe me. And they didn't believe her, my friends, because 83% in 2025 is quite a jump from 0 in 1995. And if you're between the ages of 40 and 55, you know Sarah Horowitz isn't lying. Take me as an example. I spoke to my entire campus at Emory University on Kol Nidre of my senior year in 1995. I actually had to fabricate a massive anti-Semitic incident just to wake the Jews up. I told them I fabricated it after I said it. You can ask my dad, he was there. I said to them, why do you need an enemy to remind you of who you are? That was my college life and yours. So what's going on with the Daniel Silvas of America? Are they guilty of the sin of omission, of Jewish self-erasure? Is it forgivable? Is it understandable? Is it redeemable? Back to Sarah Horowitz. She reminds us the virus of anti-Semitism, it mutates. The core of its DNA is unchanged. Its power, its depravity, its conspiracy. There are two types of anti-Semitism. Eliminationist, or Purim anti-Semitism, and conversionist, Hanukkah anti-Semitism. And the vast majority only understand the former. It's straightforward. Jews, powerful, depraved. There's a conspiracy by them to harm us all, and the defense is only to get rid of them. It's easy to recognize. It's widely seen as bad. It's condemned. It's pogroms, Holocaust, assaults on the streets of New York or Paris. It's the reason why synagogue budgets have security deficits. But conversionist anti-Semitism doesn't seem like anti-Semitism at all. Because there's something Jews can do to appease the eliminationist Hanukkah anti-Semites. It requires, writes Dara Horn in her book last year, it requires not dead Jews, but cool Jews. Those willing to give up whatever aspect of Jewish civilization is currently uncool. Doesn't match what anti-Semitism is supposed to look like. It doesn't match what it feels like. It doesn't involve intolerance or persecution. Instead, it looks like the Jews themselves are choosing to reject or erase aspects of their own tradition that the rest of the world deems disgusting. There's something, my friends, we can do to be good. There's something we can do to be saved. That's conversionist anti-Semitism. Convert to being Greek, convert to being Christian, convert to being a European of Mosaic persuasion. Then you shall be saved. and safe. Well, until the majority finds some other reason why you're problematic, like your race. For our parents, for our grandparents' generation, it was reject your name, reject your nose, reject your Jewish mannerisms, be more classy, be more civilized, be more waspy. Then, maybe you can work at my law firm or join my country club. The problem today is not the Jews' religion. God forbid. We'd never be bigoted against a religion. The problem's not our names or our noses. God forbid. That's discriminatory. The problem is our nation. And the conversion demand today is convert to being an anti-Zionist. Take the bargain. Reject your ancestral homeland, and perhaps you can be saved. Stick with Sarah Horowitz. These aren't mutations of anti-Semitism. They're upgrades. The medieval Christian clergyman did not think he was a bigot. He had centuries worth of sophisticated theology telling him about Jews' sinfulness. Centuries later, anti-Semitism got an upgrade. The enlightened European in the 1800s, he didn't think of himself as a bigot, and he also didn't subscribe to that religious nonsense that the Jews killed Jesus. He wasn't some superstitious Christian. No, he was enlightened. He had modern science that said that Jews were racially inferior. And today, no one in elite circles are calling Jews Christ killers or race polluters. If someone were to walk on a college campus wearing a Nazi uniform, carrying a sign that said, Jews killed Jesus, while chanting, Hitler should have finished the job, or Jews aren't welcome here, that would be denounced. That's not okay. The issue is different. It's Jewish nationhood. It's not the Jews who are the problem, it's the Zionists. Anti-Semitism doesn't mutate, it upgrades. And for 2,000 years, we've seen how Jews are impacted by the thoughts of those around us. When you're in the upgrade, though, when you're in it, it's very hard to see. George Orwell said, the hardest thing to see is that which is right in front of your nose. There is a conversion option for Jews in 2025. And it's so much more tasteful than the Inquisition of 1492. Got to have a little empathy for how that's happening. When claims like Zionism is racism, Zionism is Nazism, Zionism is colonialism, when those claims are no longer regarded as provocations to a debate, backed up with facts, but are they themselves, Zionists are Nazis, Zionists are racists, when those are considered facts, what is a Jew supposed to do? Imagine this. Imagine me walking onto a college campus and saying, I'm a Nazi, but I'm a liberal Nazi. I'm in the KKK, but I'm not a racist. I'm just really proud to be white. What's a Jew supposed to do? Let me say it again. The problem isn't our religion, our race, our name, our nose. Maybe my nose. Sorry. Our religion, our race, our name, our nose, our culture, our ethnicity. It's not our commitment to social justice, being a good person, remembering the Holocaust. It's none of those. It's our connection to the Jewish state. Not Judaism, not individual Jews, Jews as a nation. Take anti-Zionism into your heart and you shall be saved. You got to read the book. It helped me. It helped me understand Daniel Silva and every Jew like him. They're not Jews living in Orthodox communities. They're like me. They're like you. They're our friends. They're our family members. They're classmates. They're our colleagues. They're Jews for whom it will be hard to recognize the upgrade because they're in it. Sarah Horowitz is Harvard educated. Undergrad and law school. She was President Obama's speechwriter during his presidency, Hillary's during her 2008 campaign, Michelle Obama's until 2017. She's from Wayland, Massachusetts. She's probably a Patriots fan like me. She's actually my age. But when she says something that I've also said, her resume and where she's come from gives it more credibility. And she said, anti-Semitism is dangerous regardless of who it's coming from. It comes from people of all backgrounds and beliefs, but what I saw on college campuses and in other elite spaces unsettles me in a way that no white supremacist possibly can. There's nothing shocking to me about white supremacists hating Jews. They're not my people. I don't personally know anyone who believes in the Great Replacement theory or engages in Holocaust denial or thinks highly of Nazis. But people who work in academia, publishing, mental health, those are my people. At least they should be. We have the same education. We live in the same communities. We care about the same issues. These are respectable people who agree that white supremacists and neo-Nazis are bad. They're supposed to be the ones who stand up when others turn on minorities. They're not supposed to be the ones turning. At least that's what I used to think before I studied history. And that's why I'm pivoting my focus to addressing the newest iteration of conversion therapy that's all the rage for our youngest generation of Jews. And here's the thing. For 2,000 years, conversionist anti-Semitism has preyed on the same emotion, regardless of which jutting edge of our identity it wanted us to sand away. That emotion is shame. Guilt, which is something we Jews do very well, is feeling bad about something we did. Shame is feeling bad about something we are. Brene Brown, she says, guilt makes us think, I did something bad. Shame makes us think, I am bad. That's why Horowitz suggests that Israel has become the short skirt and drinks for Jews today. It's a play on the incredibly ugly, disgusting, misogynist idea that women who were sexually assaulted were asking for it. If you dress like that and act like that, what did you think was going to happen? And she reminds us that the success of victim blaming is that it targets the survivor's desperation to not feel helpless and vulnerable. Telling yourself that wearing pants or staying sober would have saved you is a way to suggest there's something you could have done and can do moving forward to keep yourself safe, even though it's not true. It gives the illusion of control. Israel is the short skirt and drinks for many Jews today. Jews are made to feel shame, not just about the Israeli government's actions or policies. That's totally separate. They're made to feel shame about the very existence of Israel itself. If I rid my identity of Israel, my classmates, my neighbors, my colleagues, my friends, maybe they won't hate me so much. And there are too many examples to cite. And so to Daniel Silva, to every Jew stuck in the upgrade of anti-Semitism, baptizing Israel out of your identity for the world's most recent conversion demand, I get it. I get it. I really do. Maybe if you realize what's happening, you'll second guess it. There's nothing to be ashamed of. That's what you tell them. There's nothing to be ashamed of. You did nothing wrong. And I would say to them, you got to remember two things. Number one, sometimes the majority, especially the mob, can be wrong. Jews, we learn this. We learned this during the medieval period. It was our religion that was disgusting to the world, and the world shamed us for it. Jews drink the blood of Christian children, they claimed. The blood libel. It was a nightmare for Jews. But it taught us a lesson. Zionist, Achad Ha'am, I quoted him yesterday, I quote him today. He said, any Jew who knows anything about Jewish tradition knows Jews don't consume blood. The blood libel taught us one thing: everyone can be wrong. And the Jews right. 2, Darrell Horn again. Judaism has always been uncool. Going back to its origin as the planet's only monotheism, uncoolness is pretty much Judaism's brand. To the alternative, countercultural, blue hair, choose your outlying adjective, to the hipster, nothing is more alternative, nothing is more countercultural than being a Jew. Come back. It's in the name. Our first name as a people, the name that comes from Abraham, and the name that Abraham bequeathed to his descendants, which is the courage to be a minority. He was the first person to be called Ivri. It later becomes Hebrew. It doesn't come with a genealogy, and it doesn't come with a flag or a star. It comes from the word Ever, side. He was nicknamed Avraham Ivri, Abraham the Ivri. Avraham haya be'ever echad, kol ha'olam haya be'ever hasheni. Because he was on one side and the whole world stood on the other. That is a 3,300-year job description. To be a child of Abraham is to have the courage to stand apart when the crowd demands we blend in. And no, it's not easy. It's never been easy. It's always been righteous. Always. So to Daniel Silva, every Jew stuck in the upgrade of anti-Semitism, baptizing Israel out of their identity for the world's most recent conversion demand, I get it. I do. If you realize what's happening, maybe you'll second guess it. There's nothing to be ashamed of. You did nothing wrong. The deal always looks tempting. The trade-off always seems to promise more upside. But Jewish history has already proven it doesn't. Square pegs don't fit into round holes. Not then, not now, and no matter how much you try to force it. Rabbi Shlomo Karliner, who I love to quote on the holidays, the greatest manifestation of the Yetzer Hara, and I'll leave you with this, the worst of all inclinations, is for a prince to forget he's the son of a king, or a princess to forget that she's the son of a queen. That's why today is called Yom HaZikaron, the day of remembrance. On this day, we're obligated to remember who we are, not with arrogance, not with hubris, just honesty. That's the essence of tshuva. Tshuva doesn't mean repentance. It means come back, return. Rosh HaShanah is the Jews' annual charge to do real tshuva. Return to what should be clear, obvious, to carry the recognition forward into the coming year when it will be even more complicated than it is today, and we know it. Return to an inherent truth. It's been a part of us since Sinai. Return to what we all intuitively know, but sometimes we forget or are convinced through the manipulations of others to distort or to erase. Rosh HaShanah, Day of Remembrance, remind ourselves it is not the world who dictates to us what and who we are. We remember today and forever exactly what or who we are. We are the authors of the story. Yeah, the going is tough for the Jews. There seems to be an option to be saved. It's not an option, it's a trick. It's always been a trick. We're the people of Shema Yisrael. We've crossed seas, we've wandered deserts, we've outlived empires, we've kissed the plaques of those who carried the story before we did. Now it's our turn to build, our turn to bless, our turn to teach, our turn to risk, our turn to pray, to sing, to live as Jews out loud, to answer history not with silence, and to answer history not with shame. You did nothing wrong. We answer history with the oldest, boldest words we have. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shana Tova, everybody.